Hi, my name is William Bailey. I live on 4238 White House Street. And I realize this is pretty much an exercise in futility after watching the last vote. You guys have already decided how this is gonna go. I'm not sure why we spend as much time as we do trying to convince you otherwise when you guys have made up your minds. I also don't understand why we started with one data center and we can't figure out how much that's gonna affect our electricity and our water before we have to go and have 3 data centers before. What happens if all these promises that have been made that it won't affect the electricity, it won't affect the water, it's not true? Now you've got 3 instead of just 1 as you've got to deal with. But that doesn't seem to matter either. So I applaud these people for coming up here and trying to talk to you. I know you guys have already made up your minds. That's just kind of the way it is. You guys have a nice night.
Thank you.
Susan Warren, 5129 North Tubman Road, Appling. One of these new applications for data centers was not very clear, and that was the Pumpkin Center one. Why were no DRIs filed for these centers? When were the applications submitted? Were they rushed to the Planning Commission to get them in process by January 1st prior to the new guidelines for DRIs going into effect? There are wetlands shown on both the Bird Farms and Pumpkin Center maps. And I've been told that when Columbia County sold the land to Kinetic for the White Oak Center, that they pretty much carved out all of the wetlands, and the county is stuck with us, all these wetlands. We're gonna pay the price for that, if that's the truth, when the floods come. And come they will, with the heavier rains we're seeing in the largest data center district and permeable surface area of any U.S. data centers. While the county emphasizes the square foot of the data center buildings themselves, they don't talk about how much more is actually where the trees used to protect us from this heavy runoff. Yeah, White Oak has 8,004,000 square feet of data center buildings, but there's an additional 870,000 square feet of substation and administration building. Bird Farms at 4,956,800 square feet also has a substation warehouse building, 640,000 square feet. That's a total of 5,596,800 square feet. Pumpkin Center is 2,870,400 square feet with an additional 992,500 of substation, warehouse, and office. That brings their total to 3,762,900. That makes your 15,831,200 square feet jump to 18,356,200 square feet. And there's no parking shown on any of these 3 sites. Could that be because they don't have many employees? That's what I think. And the plans for Pumpkin Center were so basic, there was no information on how they planned to power and cool those 4 huge buildings. Additionally, on White Oak and Bird Farms, there are listed as 540 generators that have to be figured in the square footage of these 2 sites. The only thing that was said about these in that is that it is assumed they will have weatherproof enclosures. So we can't even measure their footprints. You know, all of these things require concrete structures. That's impermeable. The water's not gonna go through that when we get a 3-inch rain. It's not gonna go through that. It's gonna be running off. And where does it run off? It runs off into the wetlands, it runs off into the creeks, it runs off into the streams and down to the Savannah River. So the ballpark estimate for these all these extras not mentioned probably push the total square footage to at least 20 million. And guess what? The county said none of these impermeable surfaces are required to pay a stormwater fee like we residents do. No stormwater fees. There isn't, unless he lied to me. Did he lie to me? There isn't any mention at all of emergency generators on the Pumpkin Center site, so I don't understand how the county could have done noise testing without knowing. And the 4,935 rooftop chillers for the White Oak and Bird Farm sites are estimated to operate, when they're at 100% load, of 105 dBA. That's a lot more than 70.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Crystal Parton. I live at 3171 Dozier Road, Appling, Georgia. It really is Winfield, thank God. So I am kind of far away from what's happening right now. But if I don't get up here and talk about it, and it comes out my way, then I haven't done what I need to do for my friends. I am an educator. I taught history and government, and now I'm an educational leader. I'm a mother of kids who go to Harlem Middle School and Harlem High School. I am the previous planning commissioner for District 4. My family has been here for 200 years. I'm educated, as are most of us out here. We are not bumpkins, we're not rednecks, and we are not uninformed. In fact, this group is the only group that has provided hard research and data that support our opposition. Planning commissioners, county commissioners, staff. There's no data, no evidence, no scientific research to support approving these data centers. None. And y'all had plenty of chances to show us. Tonight, I'm gonna focus on some procedural issues because everybody's covered all the rest. Unlike the statement from the Pumpkin Center data man, this is not just about what the property can be used for. This is about use as well as the fit with the community, and can certainly be denied on a variety of bases. I mean, staff has denied recommending garages and storage units based on how it impacts neighbors in neighborhoods in Evans. A garage, because it impacts their neighbor, because it's 5 feet away from their property line. You can and you should have discussion before moving forward with a vote of this magnitude. Mr. Cato, thank you for your vote. As our representative, you have the right and the responsibility to request discussion before any vote that does not reflect the interests, desires, and quality of life of the district that you represent. Public comment exists to inform the commissioner's decision-making. When public concerns are heard but never acknowledged or discussed, the process becomes performative, and it is not participatory. Unless y'all all talked beforehand, which is not allowed, how do y'all know why Mr. Cato voted no? How do you know why they voted yes, and why didn't you discuss it? The commission also has procedural tools available, such as tabling or continuing an item to allow time for proper review and meaningful constituent input. Choosing not to use those tools, especially under these circumstances, is a deliberate choice. The official record of this meeting will reflect whether these concerns were engaged with or dismissed without discussion. That record matters to the citizens you serve and to the public trust in this body, and not just from citizens of District 4. I have plenty of friends, family across this county who are disgusted with how these things are moving right now. Without proper discussion, with seemingly disinterest in the feelings in large community outpourings. The level of turnout here tonight should signal that this issue warrants greater deliberation, not less. High public participation calls for restraint, transparency, and discussion before a vote. And it was motion 1, motion 2, all in favor, aye. That is unacceptable. And it wouldn't happen on a garage in a neighborhood in Evans. So it's disrespectful. Finally, commissioners are elected and appoint you to represent their districts, not simply to vote with a majority. Representation means speaking up when a vote conflicts with district interests. I was told recently that our District 4 commissioner represents all of Columbia County and has to vote with everybody in mind. Well, with that reasoning, all of you should be voting with us in mind too. Right now, none of this is happening, and Columbia County deserves better. Effective representative government requires listening, discussion, and accountability, especially when decisions directly affect the community's quality of life. And right now, it feels like representative government in this county is a sham.
Hello, how are you? My name is Lori Patterson, and I live at Faircloth Commons now. I used to have a house out in Eppeling, and it killed me to sell it, to move out of that area. My father was ill, so I had to come into town. But are all of you employees of Columbia County? I'm not familiar with all of you. Are you Columbia County employees? No? Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out, I've never been so disheartened in my whole life as what I am after sitting here for, 4 hours? Listening to all of these people pour their hearts out and give you factual reasons why these data centers are not a good idea. And you basically spit in their face. That you didn't give it 30 seconds of thought. But I feel sorry for you, each of you, because you have to live amongst all of these people. And I'm sure you will lose many friends because of decisions you have just made. But at the same time, I feel sorry for all of these people. I feel sorry for these people here. Because all of these people don't understand. You have to vote that way. The lady that was just up here said she didn't understand how you could, unless you spoke ahead of time. Well, the county god spoke ahead of time. There is one person in charge of this whole county. He's running it into the ground. And this was his idea 10 years ago. And when Ron Cross went out and they roped Doug Duncan, who had no political aspirations at all, and had probably never even been to a council meeting, into running against Pam Tucker, that was the end of Columbia County. Scott Johnson is running this county into the ground, and you all are allowing it. I will also say that that's why I pity all of you, because I know, I understand, there is nothing any of you can do. You tried with the quarry, and I'll bet y'all heard about that. And that's probably why you didn't even have to discuss tonight's answer, because you weren't going to do it again. Because I know him, how he works. A few of these people know how he works. And he will bully you into making the right decision. And that is exactly what he has done with every commissioner and all of you, all of department heads. I mean, I've seen it for years. All of you all have seen it for years. 10 years ago, we had a nationally recognized EMA department. I know because my father built it. And Scott Johnson single-handedly squashed a nationally recognized EMA department because of his, I don't know, just because of the way he is. And he bullied her into leaving. And I'm sure if one of you all would step out of line, he would bully you into being gone also. These people have lived out in this area, most of them for generations. And now it's not one data center over here in White Oak, kind of tucked away. Now they're everywhere, thousands of acres. For what? For what? For any of you? Surely none of you all are profiting off of this. I don't think any of these people out here are going to profit off of it either, except maybe these right here. No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and money. That's Matthew.
Thank you.
I hope when you go home, you all think about what you've done. I will keep you in my prayers. And I understand that you had no choice because Scott Johnson has already said this is what we're going to do. We're going to get a data center. 10 years ago, he's going to make up whatever departments he needs to make up. He's going to hire whoever he needs to hire. The commission, overriding what you all sat and had debates about, the quarry, them overriding it. I'm sorry. It made all of you look foolish, I know.
Thank you, ma'am.
But that's just how he is. He doesn't care.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hello again. Guy Feebaker, 5206 White Oak Road, Appling, Georgia. So the White Oak Technology Center passed, and just like the young woman that was just up here that left, I'm speaking up because while not directly impacted, I was close enough that I was worried about my neighbors. I'm probably maybe 2 miles from I-20. White Oak doesn't just come up next to my property. There's a subdivision or a line of homes behind mine, so I'm not directly impacted. These people are definitely impacted. Now, the developer that is doing the green space, commendable. You're gonna plant wildflowers. I don't know what animals are gonna be around those wildflowers with the noise, but that's commendable. The buffer area where you're 200 feet away from the data centers, I'm 300 feet from White Oak Road. I see traffic passing through the pine trees. I hear the traffic from I-20. Now, that being said, I stuck around here after the first meeting, and my wife left in disgust. After 300 or so people sat here, stood here, and more or less admonished you and begged you, don't let this happen. This is not the future for Columbia County. I stuck around to say, for 4 of y'all, shame on you. Yes. Shame on you. Do the right thing, prove me wrong, and vote no on this next one, and the one after, and the one after that. Because like the young lady said, I can't help but feel that these were all backroom plans. This is happening too fast. Stop. When I talked to Ms. Couch about the White Oak program, she said, this is the first one. We're going to see how this goes. And the next thing you know, you guys are balls to the walls on trying to get these developed right down our throats. Stop. What is the rush, like the other man said? Please, have a conscience.
I'm Eli Davis, 2197 Morris Callaway Road, so the White Oak Data Center will be in my backyard. I graduated from Harlem High School in 2022, and a month ago, I graduated from Augusta University with a bachelor's in cell and molecular biology. I would speak on the health implications and the other biological topics that others have spoke on tonight, but I'm not going to waste my breath. I would like to point out the ecological efforts that this data center has proposed. The intention, the care, and the effort is noticeable. My only concern are the pine trees that are planned to be planted. For those who don't know, pine trees start the forest. Whenever you clear land, the first trees you see are pine trees. They grow fast. That is part of the reason they are a part of our lumber industry. These pine trees have very shallow roots. They also don't house many species. Old growth forests that we are cutting down, like the one in my backyard, harbor are rare and more sensitive species. I would like to point out our barred owls. A few months ago, I had to have a talk in front of my ecology class as these barred owls are leaving our states, fleeing through Canada and going to Washington. We are destroying their habitats. And so these species that are native here are having to find other areas to live. So while I am against these data centers, I would like to commend this proposal for the effort they have put in to help with the environment, and that's all they're doing. They're destroying habitat and putting in work, unnecessary work, to resurrect a land, as we could just leave it and maybe create a preserve. Instead of creating a data center, make this land a preserve to where, sure, data centers are going to pop up, but leave this land intact so that species can harbor there, grow there, and maybe spread. So my proposal is for these pine trees. Yes, they're good. They grow fast. That is why you're planting pine trees. But maybe 2-3 years later, start planting our oaks, our hickories, with deeper roots that will grow taller and support our wildlife. And we approved the last one with no real ecological implications or efforts. And while it seems inevitable that these data centers are going to pop up, I think it could be y'all's job to make this a standard, make these ecological efforts improve. Like, I would say this is the bare minimum. Why is not every data center proposing these ecological efforts? And like at SRS has biologists, ecologists. They're there on site, taking data, doing research. No scientists are proposed to be on the sites. It's just buildings and maintenance workers. That's really all I have to say. I just wanted to point out that these ecological efforts should be the standard. And I think that y'all could make them the standard. Whether or not the data centers go up to y'all, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Vin Muller, Pecan Road in Appling. I prepared to talk to you about the water earlier. I wasn't prepared for anything else, but there are some things that have come up that I took some issue with, and I want to just clarify. The traffic data that was just recently reviewed for this project is one of those instances of cherry picking your data. The proposed description, the data center traffic study is based on after construction, full build out, minimal employees. It says nothing about 3 data centers being constructed at the same time over a 5 to 20 year build out and having 2,000 to 4,000 temporary construction workers in and out of those facilities every single day. That is what they really should be looking at. What are we going to look at for the next 10 years at a minimum? The housing explanation that was put forth is for after full build out. Once this whole area has been turned into another PUD and all of those homes have been sold and the realtors and the landowners are thrilled. So don't cherry pick the data. If you're going to pick the best of both. If you're going to pick the worst of both and be open and honest about it. Earlier, someone was talking about the issues with what happens when the bubble bursts and these buildings are no longer needed. What do we do about site reclamation? When this first came up in the review of the data center standard, I proposed that we put in there that every project requires a multi-million-dollar bond that is held to restore the property when the unit shuts down, and that you clarify what constitutes cessation of operations. One security light keeps electricity running, and right now, no power for a 12-month period is the only criteria you have. That's not sufficient. When this thing comes in, it will have very few long-term jobs. On the site reclamation, I lost my place for a second. This project doesn't need to be where it is. It just makes landowners happy who make a lot of money on it. Why don't you take it and move it to someplace where we need site reclamation? The Regency Mall. Richmond County would be thrilled. Richmond County is a partner in the Joint Development Authority with Columbia County. Share the wealth. If this is so blasted good for us, share it with our neighbor, because we're going to try and steal their water next year. One of the other people that was up a little bit ago said that when we use these NDAs, the county used the NDAs to cover the tracks of everything that was being done. And that when it's secret, it's bad. Many people have made biblical references, and the Bible will tell you if you have to keep it in the dark, it's not a good thing. So one of the questions I have had from the beginning of this, and it's a moot point now because this is all as far along as it is, but we will have more of this coming at us in time. Why doesn't the county have the guts to put a non-binding referendum on the ballot, like Richmond County did for uses of the Regency Mall, to get the opinions of the commoners who elected you, who elected the commissioners, who appointed you, get our opinion on what to do with our land, because it's not the county's. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening again. Beth Connell, 2538 Falling Branch Lane, Evans. I'm also not directly impacted. I had a lot to say, but the young lady back here said it much better than I ever could. But my challenge here is the fact that, number one, that was a really quick vote. And there was a room full of people, and I wish we had asked the question of how many people in here supported this. Because it's the exception of the developers, I haven't heard one person speak in favor of any of this. Public participation is a part of a county's process, which means we have a say in what happens. And that quick vote said you didn't care about anything that was said in here. These decisions were made a long time ago. I've been a resident of this county since 1980. So in those 45 years, I've heard about the good old boy system in our commission and everything else that's going on. The commission at the time that I was in high school was basically the Blanchards, the Calhouns, every developer that you can look around now sat on there. And they ran this county. There was no vision. There was no desire. This county could have been incredibly beautiful and incredibly well laid out. And I'll look at many times I've stood up in front of this meeting and I've brought evidence against the Vision 2035 plan to say that it did not support the rezoning. And every time it got shot down. Well, when this group can say that every single development plan conforms to the Vision 2035 plan, you don't have a plan and you don't have a vision. Because it is so broad, everything fits into it. I'm asking that you stop this rezoning. I also am totally overwhelmed the fact that this started as one data center. Now we're up to 4. We're 4,000 acres into this. It kind of reminds me of the Parker gas station. You know, Parkers came in here and we didn't just put 1 Parkers in the county to see if they were really going to be a good county citizen. What did we end up with, 7, 6? I mean, why can't we have a little bit of planning? And I mean, the fact that we are just throwing these out at everyone and nobody's listening to what the citizens have to say. This room full was packed, 300 people. Nobody supported it. I have yet to hear the first person come up here and support it. So please, I realize you guys are in a bad position. I realize there are a lot of people above you that are telling you guys what to do. But you need to vote the way the people are talking in here and vote what's best for the county. The only thing that is needed for evil to succeed is for good to do nothing and just stand there. So please, do not approve this. If nothing else, stand in solidarity. You already approved one. There's one that had already been previously approved. Stand with every person that was in this room and say no on this one and the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Bob Anderson, 409 Louisville Road, Grovetown, Georgia. You guys got a tough job, and you're probably glad to see me because I'm near the end of the discussion tonight, I guess. You know, I grew up on Columbia Road. It was a dirt road when I was a kid. My grandfather lived, and I live now, on Louisville Road when it was a dirt road. So when I say I moved back here 15 years ago after having moved 7 times in 5 different states because I wanted to come back to the country, I didn't think I was coming back to dirt roads because our dad used to take us to Uchi Creek when the creek was up and we'd wash the car, and I didn't want to go there. But you know, and I've been happy back here. This was our dream home. This is where we wanted to come back to. But you know, it's changed. And I never thought in a million years I would have to be standing up in front of a group that's going to make a decision whether or not I have a data center or 18 data centers in my backyard. There's my pond. I probably have more property right up against that barrier and in Bird Farms than any other person in Columbia County. I didn't think I would ever have to be doing this. This area right here, that's a development that this same group put in several years ago with 13 houses proposed in it. I don't know how those folks feel about it. I only have 2 neighbors there, by the way. I don't know how they feel about it. I haven't talked to them. But I'll have to say that that was 20-something houses, and to his credit, Keith Lawrence worked with us to make a lot of improvements to that area, so it made it more neighborhood friendly. Keith has been a good person to work with. I think he and the group he's working with has done a commendable job putting together a plan for this whole data center. As one of my neighbors said, he and Keith are friends. I'm friends with Keith. We don't always agree, and this is one of the areas we don't agree on, because I want to see this stay, if not agricultural. I thought with a water plant behind my house, depending on an aquifer, that I was pretty safe, but things change. I talked to David Byrd a number of times. He talked about this being his legacy and how he wanted to maintain the nature of the land. 18 months ago, this group proposed to us, a number of my neighbors and myself, at a barbecue dinner, great plans of how this was going to be developed into a residential kind of mixed-use neighborhood. I wasn't looking forward to the additional traffic, but maintaining the ponds and the landscape and the trees and all of that, I kind of got my mind around it with the walking trails and said, hey, this could be all right. Vision 2035. I have been to many meetings since it was first formed, put together. I have marked up numerous maps. Everything on the west side of Appin Harlem has always been, by anyone I've ever seen mark on that map, including our own District 4 County Commissioner, as keep rural agricultural. And all of a sudden, we now have a new plan which shows that as being development land. Hey, I got one thing else I gotta say, and this has to do with noise. Because in the backfill of my property at 65 dB, I'm talking right now at about 60 dB. I would have to be yelling to have a conversation. You talk about a person's use of their property and doing what they want to with it, maybe that's okay, but that goes into my property. That goes into my ability for my grandson to build a house back there. That is not fair, and I ask you to look at fairness. Now, there's one other thing, technology. Our Pumpkin Center guy, data guy, said that it's a closed-loop system, da-da-da. You know what? Technology is evolving every day. And it is continuing to evolve. And the technology has evolved to the point where last week, not 6 months ago, but last week, Novartia introduced a chip which was much more efficient than existing chips. If you put that chip with a liquid cooling system and you eliminate, reduce a number of chillers and fans and use acoustic management, you can reduce the dB. And oh, by the way, this comes from AI. There were several other releases, but came from AI. You can reduce that noise level to less than 50 dB. Less than 50.
Okay,
Now,
sir, you're out of your
I would
time.
ask Keith, and I would ask his counterpart in Pumpkin Center, why can't we do that? Why can't the commissioner say 50? Because there's nothing's gonna be put in there that's gonna make it less than 70 unless they need to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd ask Keith to respond to that question.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. I'm Jackie Stevens. I live at 1808 Lonergan Hill, right about here. So, I will be caught, should this go through, not only between facing a data center, but the land behind me having been purchased by Georgia Power for substations, along with neighbors, my daughter, and many other neighbors in that remaining strip of in-between on Lonergan Home. We will be caught in between the two. Nobody wants our land after that. We've had one of our neighbors has had a commissioner visit that told, oh yes, your land value will go down, but you can have it rezoned commercial and sell it. Well, I just purchased this land in October, came before the Planning Commission. October of 2023, October 5th. The land was zoned M1. I was planning to build my forever home next to my daughter and asked for it to be rezoned residential. And it was. Why? If you had plans for this area to be commercial all along, just deny my request. But now we will be the ones suffering, all of us in that strip, along with Pumpkin Center area. This was not, neither of these data center properties are presented by the majority property owner for the benefit of Columbia County. The only benefit is their pocketbook. Yeah, I'll agree that maybe there is more effort put into this one than the other one. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have been shown tonight and in this long journey the true game of the good old boy system. It still lives. We thought we had progressed, but we have not. It's who you know, what you have, where you come from. I've retired as the executive administrative assistant to one of the former presidents of Augusta University. I worked with the current president. It's good old boy system. That system that works with the government and the middleman, the little man, the blue collar workers, okay, we can run over them. No, we're not going to put any of this over in the Riverwood area or any of the high dollar areas. There's too many people that are kings in those systems we can't mess with. Okay, fine. Why us? Why are we not as important as the other areas? It's just a shame that, and we're sitting here preaching to the choir. I'm sure underneath many of the facades that you have to put up, you got your hand slapped last time when you voted against the rock quarry. And you certainly were warned not to do it again. So I commend you for all the work that you have tried to do, but you are playing with a lot of people's lives. And just like everyone else has stated, money's not what it's all about. We're supposed to support one another, be each other's brothers and sisters, look out for each other. We're not supposed to be run over by someone else just because they have more money than we do. And if you really want to put good trees around an area, if you're going to be a good old boy system, do the fuga trees like they do at Augusta National. And you can't see through that barrier. And they grow pretty fast too. So, thank you for your time, and
Thank you. I'll have one more speaker. I'm about to call a vote. You can come up and speak if you'd like. One more speaker and I'm gonna call for a vote.
My name is Kim Kane. My husband Raymond's here with me. We live on Gavin Road, which will be sitting between the Bird Farm data centers. Our dirt road, the back property, which will border Nature's Way, is the back of our property, so there'll be data centers in our backyard. And across the dirt road in our front yard to the left, there will be data centers. So we're gonna be sandwiched between two data centers. We've been there since 1983 when we married. We've worked hard to build a home, 7-acre homestead, pay it off. We're in our mid-60s. We were looking to settle there, retirement, children, grandchildren is home. Have not heard from David Bird, can't get in touch with him. I do want to commend Keith, and I need to talk to you afterwards, Keith. You need to come see us. We've not heard a word from anybody, and we're sandwiched between two data centers. David said his legacy was creating this community with homes. We finally bought into that, and then we haven't been told a thing, and we find out all of this through the grapevine. My heart is still about to bust out of my chest because of the way you public servants voted when people poured their hearts out. And Mr. Moody, you opened us up with a prayer to Jesus, and we're praying about our neighbors, your neighbors who are the constituents that you're to be a voice for, poured their hearts out, and you prayed and ended that prayer in the name of Jesus, and y'all raised your hand and voted completely against the heart of the people. I'm very disappointed. We really don't have a voice in Columbia County. It's a facade. It is a facade. I'm not interested in wildflower fields that run along the power lines. We are rural because it's in our DNA, and we had settled to this. They did a great job planning this community we were going to have as a housing development. So to tell me that we're going to have wildflowers, but where are the animals going to be? We're going to be affected, our health. We're going to have to listen to noise. All that you heard everybody else say, we're going to be affected by that. I don't care how much green space they're trying to preserve. I appreciate that. But we're still sandwiched between two data centers that have all these negative effects, and that our commissioners and the planning commissioners here are not being the voice for the constituents. You're lining your pockets or something. But I want to encourage each one of you to call the Attorney General, because something is amiss with the way they have slipped in all these data centers so fast, the way they slipped in this rock quarry. We need to go to the state level, because Columbia County has gotten corrupt to the core. Call your lieutenant governor, who, by the way, is selling property for a data center. Call Brian Kemp and get on the phone with our senator and our House of Representatives, but it's time for the Attorney General to investigate Columbia County's government.
Thank you. That's all.